Sifting through all of the propaganda is proving to be a very difficult task, even for me and my associates over here at timcast.com. It's not the hardest thing in the world, but boy, is there a lot of propaganda. And trying to make sure we can tell you what's actually going on honestly and truthfully is very, very important to us. Who's the good guy? Who's the bad guy? Well, we're Americans, so we, for the most part, side with the U.S. in this one. My view on what's happening in Ukraine very much involves a corrupt and crooked Joe Biden, but also a desperate and angry Vladimir Putin. But there are a lot of angles here that have a lot of people asking questions. And now we have this story, which has lit up a lot of people on the internet. New World Order was trending for quite a bit on Twitter because a Ukrainian member of parliament said that we know that we not only fight for Ukraine, we fight for this new world order. And whenever people hear that phrase, it raises red flags, alarm bells go off, because there is a conspiracy theory, call it whatever you want, that there is a rising and emergent totalitarian global regime, that there are powerful international elites who want to control your lives. Well, call it whatever you want. I think to a certain extent that's true, and that's common sense. Yes, powerful elites, billionaires, millionaires, politicians, princes, kings, princesses, whatever you want to call it. Dukes and duchesses, powerful individuals want control. That's not a conspiracy theory. That's humanity forever, even now. So if you were to come to me and say that there's a powerful group of global elites that are working together in a sense to solidify control over the planet, I'd be like, yeah, I know, but like, in what way? Are we talking about a cabal of people underground that wear crazy robes and walk up to each other and drop their hood and say, "Tell me, oh master, what shall we do?" Or is it like rich dude has conference with other rich dudes and politicians are involved and they all argue with each other? There's something called Bilderberg. You ever hear of it? Global elites meet in this secret meeting. For a while, they said it was a conspiracy theory, that it didn't happen. There was no Bilderberg. Then you had journalists like Luke Rudkowski of We Are Change going down there and trying to interview these people. Of course, they don't want to be interviewed, these very powerful and wealthy individuals. And then eventually they came out and said, well, yeah, Bilderberg is real. It's just we don't allow press there. So why do the world's most powerful individuals from industry and politics meet in a secret meeting? I mean, it kind of makes sense. They're talking about what's going on around the world because these people are in charge of industry and countries. If you're a company that runs a bunch of oil drilling, you want to sit there and talk with someone where you might be drilling for oil or who might need oil. So birds of a feather flock together. Why do weapon expos happen? Why do comic book conventions happen? Why is it? I believe there's a conspiracy. The comic book industry secretly meets. Well, technically it's a secret only because it's not really public, but yeah, a bunch of different heads of industry from the comic book and movie industry meet to discuss a convention, Comic-Con. You see the point. The problem is I don't care what they do at a comic book convention. That's cool, whatever. I do care about what our politicians and global leaders are talking about behind closed doors when they go to, say, the World Economic Forum, or when they, in Davos, or when they go to, say, Bilderberg or something like that. It's not that it's an evil totalitarian regime laughing and maniacally plotting the downfall of humanity. It's just industries coordinating and talking with governments. So when this person comes out and says, fight for the New World Order, well, a lot of people are asking questions. And the reason is the idea of the New World Order is extremely negative. It is not some utopian vision of a planet where we all hold hands, sing together, and have one unified governing authority by which there is a democratic process in how it's run. The New World Order conspiracy theory is more that a bunch of powerful elites think they're smarter than you, and they know it. And they're gonna run your life, and that's the way things are gonna be. Let me play for you the clip so you can hear it from Fox News. Member of Parliament Kira Rudik says this. Here we go.
But right now, it's a critical time because we know that we not only fight for Ukraine, we fight for this new world order for the democratic countries.
And there you go. She said it right there. She fights for the new world order of these democratic countries. Okay. Well, let's talk about what's going on and talk about the lies. Before we get into everything, though, I do actually have a pretty cool sponsor for this video, and it's ground.news. Go to ground.news/Tim Pool if you would like to check out. It's an excellent way to get your news and know where the bias is. So I use the ground.news extension. Why? On big tech and social media, you're getting heavily filtered news. You don't know who owns it. You don't know what their bias is. I see this all the time. Someone shares a story and I'm like, but who's writing this, right? And that matters too, especially as we're talking about Fox News and this idea of a new world order. This member of parliament giving an interview to Fox News, but Fox News right now is being accused by the Lincoln Project of being evil and pro-Putin. But then they put on someone who claims, well, then maybe you'd make the argument that it's discrediting the US and NATO because the New World Order freaks people out. Check it out. At ground.news, they give you your headlines. It's awesome. I use ground.news. And you can see who owns it, and you can see the degree of factuality, and you can see who's reporting on it. The coolest thing about this, in my opinion, is that you can see a story with major breaking news. Here we go. Derek Jeter steps down as Miami Marlins. Like, why is that relevant to this? Well, look, you can see that 59% of the stories, 22 sources, are coming from the left. This allows you to understand what the left or right, what either side might not actually know, and you can actually make an assessment on whether or not the right is apprised to key issues. So again, check out ground.news/Tim Pool, download the app or the browser extension. I think it's fantastic. I don't agree with everything, all of their assessments, but they do a fantastic job, substantially better than NewsGuard. Full disclosure, and this is a full sponsored spot, but I only agree to do it because I actually have the ground.news browser actually installed on as I'm doing news. But so let's get back to the main story though, and a special shout out, thank you for sponsoring the show. The National reports, I will defend Ukraine as long as needed, says Ukrainian MP Kira Rudik. And this is another reason why I think sources like ground.news are good. Check this out. When trying to investigate what this woman is going on about the New World Order, of course, I look up older stories from The Atlantic. Bury the old world order. The old ways of dealing with Russia no longer apply. What are they talking about, the New World Order? What are they talking? They're talking about the old ways of dealing with Russia. What they really mean is the old ways of dealing with other countries. What it sounds like they're actually saying is they overtly want a one world governing authority to deal with Russia, and they almost have it. I'm not saying about the conspiracy theory, what people believe about it. I don't know. I'm saying that with the SWIFT payment system, with the liberal economic order, yeah, what we're seeing now against Vladimir Putin very much shows the solidifying of this planet under one governing authority by which you will have no right to do anything. No rights, no free speech, no two-way, none of that. Because it's corporate. It's corporate control. It's effectively authoritarian. But take a look at this story. And this is why, again, bias filters are important. The National, the newspaper that supports an independent Scotland. Okay, well, they're NewsGuard certified, so apparently they're a good source, 100 out of 100. But what's their bias? As you scroll down and they talk about this MP, Kira Rudik, who says she has no plans to leave and she's got her Kalashnikov. Good for her, by the way. I respect that. You go down and she says, I don't have any plans to leave this country. But what did she say about a new world order? All right. Well, Rudik added that she was extremely grateful to foreign countries for sanctions and the provision of military support, adding, every time I receive a message from all over the world, it makes my heart sing. People really, really do support Ukraine. She also said the invasion would precipitate a new world order, saying, there are tyrannies that need to be isolated, and there are democratic countries who can help each other evolve. This is why it's so important for us to stay on the bright side. And even if we feel that this is a David versus Goliath situation, I am still persuaded that once it's all gone, we will be able to build the country in a much better situation with better support with other countries. Whoa. Hold on there a minute. The invasion would precipitate a new world order? What does that mean? That's not exactly what she said in the statement to Fox News. She said she was fighting for a new world order. A new world order that the Anti-Defamation League says is a term used to refer to right-wing conspiracy theory that became popular among anti-government extremists from the 90s onwards. New World Order conspiracists believe that a tyrannical socialist one-world conspiracy has already taken over most of the planet and schemes to eliminate the last bastion of freedoms, the United States, with the help of collaborators within government. Though through repressive measures as well as manufactured crises such as terror attacks and pandemics, the globalist conspirators seek to eliminate dissent and to disarm Americans so that the New World Order can move in and enslave them. New World Order conspiracists also commonly believe the hundreds of concentration camps have been built in the U.S. ready to house dissenters. The government will declare martial law, possibly on a pretext such as responding to a terror attack, and the government will engage in mass gun confiscations. Okay, well, here's what I think. you always got to watch out for conspiracy theories because there could be a morsel of truth sprinkled about that gets smeared and stretched to an absurd degree. Notably, you had George H.W. Bush say, this new world order. And then everyone's like, he admitted it. And it's like, is he speaking like, is he just using words or is he referring to something specific? Now, I'm not going to give these people the benefit of the doubt, mind you. But I'm also not going to give conspiracists necessarily the benefit of the doubt. Look, let me put it this way. Tyrannical socialist one world conspiracy. I don't know about the extent to which there's a grand conspiracy. I think there's an emergent phenomenon through social media that's resulting in algorithms that favor socialist worldviews and policies. That should be apparent to everybody. Does that mean it's completely intentional? Not necessarily. So here's my point. These things may be happening to some degree, but what happens is people assume they're all manufactured on purpose instead of being emergent. And that's different. Emergence is actually, in my opinion, kind of scary. Look, there are people who want to believe in these conspiracy theories because they can believe they can stop them. But if it's truly an emergent phenomenon, meaning it just tends to move in this direction because of the technology we build, well, then you're in a really bad place. Manufactured crises and everything, well, you'd have to believe they're manufacturing the crises. So I don't know about all of that, okay? But I can say, this MP who's talking about fighting for the New World Order, well, we've also got opinions that it could be the end of the New World Order, whatever you want to call it. There's the, the liberal economic order. Ian talks about it all the time on Timcast IRL. And it's the idea that we would have, it's effectively the New World Order, but it's like the not conspiracy version, I guess. It's basically the International Monetary Fund. It's financing the SWIFT payment system. It's really simple. Right now, they're booting Russia from the SWIFT payment system. They are effectively using cancel culture to control or stabilize geopolitics on the planet. The Week. Samuel Goldman writes, why war in Ukraine means the end of the liberal world order. With Russia's invasion, the world's rules no longer apply. Interesting. On the afternoon of August 5th, 1990, President George H.W. Bush appeared at a press conference on the South Lawn of the White House. After reviewing developments related to Iraq's invasion of Kuwait, Bush took questions from reporters. The last elicited the most memorable words of the crisis and perhaps Bush's whole presidency. This will not stand. This aggression against Kuwait. Bush's awkward grammar and delivery made the remark an object of satire. Most famously in the Coen brothers film The Big Lebowski, it was memorable. It was memorable, though less because it was funny. It was funny then because Bush's words expressed a particular vision of international politics. Born in the wake of the Second World War, but made plausible by the collapse of the Soviet power, the vision promised an American-led world in which states would fight only in defense of recognized territorial boundaries, limiting their rivalries to economic, sports, and culture. And that's where we are right now. You can call it the New World Order, you can call it the liberal economic order, you can call it the liberal world order, you can call it globalism, I don't care what you call it. The fact is, there was an effort by powerful elites after World War II to prevent a world war from happening again, and for good reason. Now, if you take some conspiratorial beliefs that there's manufactured terror attacks and stage stuff like that, and sometimes it does happen. I mean, the FBI has been deeply involved in some plots. Then you might take it to a dark, dark place. I don't think we need to do that. I don't need to get involved in any of the darker conspiracies about who did what and what's going on. What I can tell you outright is that powerful international elites are concerned about war and conflict, so they try to sway their industries in certain ways. And you can rest assured that when large industries are meeting at, say, Bilderberg, they're probably discussing world order. So is there a new world order of totalitarian dictatorship? I don't think it's as dark as, most people who believe in the conspiracy would think it out to be, like 1984. But it is creepy. Because we are seeing the attempt at social credit systems. We do see what China does. China's got concentration camps with Uyghur Muslims. And if they're in any way involved in any kind of liberal economic order, well, then I'd be pretty freaked out too. But hold on there a minute. China's not. They're on the side of Russia on this one. Brazil just declared neutrality. China is backing Russia. China is going to be helping Russia pick up the pieces as Russia goes to war with Ukraine. So it's not so simple. This is why I don't like conspiracy theories. People would say, oh, this, that, or other. Well, I'll tell you this. If there really is a new world order, then you've basically got China and Russia saying they want theirs and the West saying they want theirs. So I'm just like, maybe we should operate on what we know, on who did it, and ignore any kind of grandiose global cabal ideas. Because it's hard to prove outside of we know governments have treaties and we know businesses make deals. One of the things Vladimir Putin is basically saying is that he's opposing, this attempt at a liberal economic order. It doesn't work. A unifying government authority over so many different cultures doesn't make sense. And so you know what? While this Ukrainian MP is saying they're fighting for the New World Order, perhaps that's correct. However you want to frame it. Perhaps Vladimir Putin is fighting against it. And then you end up with people in the culture war in the United States saying they're for or against it. There's a lot of people in the U.S. I'm seeing who are actually, I wouldn't say supporting Putin's war effort, but in a sense, defending Russia's ideals, that Russia's more traditionalist. There's certainly people defending Putin in Russia and America. Don't get me wrong. I'm saying of prominent people. No, I see accounts online saying, look, he's fighting against the, global homogenization and the New World Order or whatever. And I'm like, I think, sure, to an extent you can say that, but I just don't like the conspiratorial view of it because I think you end up missing, failing to understand what's actually going on. Is probably much more simple than this. Vladimir Putin is a man of a particular worldview. He doesn't like that Estonia and Latvia are NATO countries, and now it's moving down through Ukraine. So he says, we're not having that. I don't, want what you guys want. But more importantly, it's gas. Russia's being threatened because the taking of Ukraine, it's going to give Europe more control over gas and an opportunity to bring in alternate pipelines through Syria. This whole New World Order, Vladimir Putin fighting, come on, it's all propaganda. I'm sure there's a morsel of truth in there, but let me tell you what I think is really going on. Syria falls. The Western powers want cheaper gas in Europe. They don't care about, I don't think for the most part they care so much about wokeness and culture war issues. I think they care about maintaining power. One of the ways they're going to do that is by putting the boot down on Vladimir Putin. He controls a lot of the gas going into Europe. He's got Nord Stream 2, which they just sanctioned again, which was dumb. Trump sanctioned it. And then he's got Gazprom going through Ukraine. You take a look at Hunter Biden in Ukraine, you take a look at Syria, and it all starts to make sense. The New World Order isn't necessarily the issue at play here, maybe if you want to believe that. It's just Western power. Maybe you'd argue, but Tim, the gas and oil is to give them that power. I don't need to go that far. I mean, by all means, you can believe whatever you want, but I'm saying this. The NATO in the West wanted to build a pipeline through Turkey and through Syria and Turkey from Qatar. And then, and I think not through Iraq, but through Syria. I have to pull up the map to look at the geography. They wanted to bring it through Ukraine, and they wanted to displace, or not through Ukraine, I'm sorry, through Syria, through Turkey, into Europe, to displace the Ukrainian pipeline that Russia has. Syria said, no, Russia's our ally. All of a sudden, civil war breaks out, and the West is helping supply the rebels, and they oppose Assad. Convenient, because we want to build that pipeline. And if we did, it would reduce Russia's wealth. And they're already an empire in decline. I mean, an empire that collapsed and now in decline. Their GDP is not that big. So Russia knows oil is important to them. That's why they're building Nord Stream 2. So when this happens, and the U.S. is trying to gain favor in Ukraine, which could help the West and NATO control gas prices and hurt Russia, Russia says no. It's really that simple. I don't think you need to go crazy and look into all this crazy conspiracy stuff and New World Order stuff. I'm sure there are people who believe it. I'm sure there are people who want globalism. I know Greenpeace are globalists. A lot of leftists are globalists, but they call themselves that. I don't accuse people of doing that. I say there's certain degrees of internationalism versus nationalism. My view is a bit mixed. We should have open communication. We should have visa on entry with many countries. You come to the border, they check your passport. All right, visa on entry, you get 3 months, right? Trade agreements are mostly fantastic, so long as there's proper price controls, because we don't want to destroy local economies in favor of just international trade. Plus, you got to realize international trade is energy exhaustive. The idea that we would chop down a tree in Canada, send the wood to China to be turned into a skateboard, and then shipped to be sold in the U.S. to me is nuts, because we got rock maple here in the United States, and that was always crazy to me. Plus, it's damaging to the local economy. So this idea of mass energy expenditure for, that kind of trade, I'm not a fan of that. But anyway, my thing is, you've got to have sovereign controls over your local laws. The fear really comes down to this, in my opinion. The idea of the New World Order would take away your right to set your own laws. And that was the Trans-Pacific Partnership to a great deal. That would have allowed corporate power. Trump shut it down. Of course, these other countries then try and make something new because they're desperate to establish these trade agreements. I don't think world leaders meet in a secret cabal to plan world domination. I do think world leaders already dominate the world and are seeking to enrich themselves and stabilize their power and make it more permanent. So that is to say, the reason they toss aside the ideas, like Ian mentioned cabal on Timcast IRL, I was like, no, hold on. Because that's the fictional action movie worldview. The reality is much simpler, and you don't need grand conspiracy theories. Powerful elites have meetings. That's it. Look, when I do shows, I get phone calls from podcasting companies, and I get calls from other podcasts, and we discuss, are you guys going to have a guest on? Can we buy an ad spot? When are you guys doing this? Is that a conspiracy to control the podcasting market? No, it's just business meetings about stuff. The issue is global powerful elites do run governments, do run corporations. They literally do run the world. So when they meet together and make plans for what they want to do and how they want to handle things, people take issue with it because we're supposed to be democratically run. I mean, that's the idea, right? But corporations aren't democracies. And therein lies the big issue about the New World Order, if that's what you're fighting for. It's not the governments you have to fear, in my opinion. Governments have a degree of accountability. There's a degree of fear, we should have and distrust for government, but we can always challenge them and cause. Donald Trump got elected. It's a good example. Tell me about electing a Donald Trump to the head of a major corporation if he seeks to, let's put it this way. I'm not going to call a specific company, but let's just say certain manufacturers that go to China. Do you think any one of these companies is going to elect to put Donald Trump on as their chairman of the board and CEO when his plan is to bring the factories back? Never going to happen. But Trump can get elected. And he can come in and can jam them up. They don't like it. They're angry about it. I believe the New World Order idea is an emergent phenomenon, not a conspiracy. I think powerful interests coalesce and then seek to empower themselves, and eventually you get centralized authority. In the meantime, Vladimir Putin's talking about certain political policies like the IMF, like the UN. He's critical of them. And I think his big issue is that Russia controls a lot of land on this planet. I think Russia is the biggest country. And they produce oil. It keeps their people fed. The West is seeking to undermine that, which would harm Russia. So he goes to war. In my opinion, it really is that simple. Whatever this MP says. But I must say, in spite of all that, we have created the Alex Jones was right jar. That's right. On our kitchen counter here at the Cast Castle, we have Alex Jones was right jar. And there you go. And there's money in it. Some people have pointed out we should have filled the money up as a joke, because the joke was like every time he's right, you got to throw money in. It's a joke. But here's one. You sure you can afford that game? Well, I'll tell you this. Alex Jones is also wrong a lot. But he predicted this war back in October. It's really interesting. I think you got to be careful about believing in grandiose conspiracy plots to rule the world, and just be more worried about emergent phenomenon. And I'll tell you why. The cabal idea insinuates there's an ideology among these people, and that's why they're doing what they do. But that is to suggest if you removed these people from power by voting them out, or by, boycotting their company or something like that, it implies it would stop. No. If Trudeau is gone, he'll be replaced by someone who would fall in line. If, there's a certain, you look at Donald Trump getting in, clearly there's a chance at slowing things. But for the most part, the office controls you. You get the job as CEO and you do what the company, you act in the company's interests. It's an emergent phenomenon. It's going to happen, and we need to be conscious of it. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 4 p.m. over at youtube.com/Timcast. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all there.